Africa has a very special energy. You're going to remember that moment for the rest of your life. You're creating memories that are crossing the generations. Hi, I'm Craig Storkey. I'm the custodian of our two gorgeous properties in Rwanda today to speak to Renee about the future of luxury tourism in Africa and Rwanda specifically.
So Craig, where are we talking to you from today and what is happening in Rwanda?
Well, I'm currently at the one and only GOrill'as nest. We're in a little village called Quirky, which is just outside Musanze, which is the second biggest town in Rwanda. We're about 2 hours away from Kigali, which is the capital city. I think at the moment, Rwanda is in a really great space. We've done some hard lockdowns previously in terms of COVID. The government was very proactive in managing it. And I think we're seeing the dividends of the sacrifices we made right at the beginning of this.
Fantastic. And how long has the one and only been there and been sort of a haven for tourists to go and see these incredible gorillas? What's the story of the one and only's involvement?
We opened Nyungwe House almost 4 years ago now, with the aim of opening our second hotel to complement it, which would be one and only's GOrill'as Nest. GOrill'as Nest opened in November 2019, and by March 2020 was promptly closed. So it was a little bit of a letdown for us and very disappointing because we had seen such great numbers going into 2020 and 2021. The two hotels complement each other. They nothing like each other, which is really great. So if you come to the one, you're going to have one experience. You come to the other, you're going to have a completely different experience. And we're staying true to our name, One and Only, because you will not find two other properties that are even close to our two properties in Rwanda.
So what's the idea? Do people come to one or the other, or are they paired together for a trip?
You know, it's really up to you to decide how you want to put your holiday together and how much time you have. We encourage people to look, especially now, post-COVID, or as post-COVID as you can get, and say to them, you know what, if you're looking for a single destination, then Rwanda is definitely that destination. We would then suggest that you look at possibly going to Akagera Game Lodge, then going to Nyungwe, and then closing your vacation with a stay at GOrill'as Nest.
Wow. And how many days do you need at GOrill'as Nest to really have enough time to see the gorillas and do everything on offer?
Really interestingly, you know, GOrill'as Nest is a fully integrated resort. So we're not just like a normal lodge where you would do your morning game drive, your afternoon game drive, and then, you repeat the same the next day. So we have a whole host of facilities on the resort. So not only are you going to experience the gorillas, we always suggest that you always do 2 gorilla treks, because when you go and visit the gorillas, you will see that there's a variety of families you can visit. And every time you go to a different family, you're having a different experience. It's like visiting the Kardashians the one day, and then the very next day you go and visit the Addams family.
I love it.
Your interactions are completely different. What we also say is on the first day, you're a little bit overwhelmed and it's very emotional. While on the second day, you have more time to live in the moment and enjoy the experience. So the 2 tracks I think are critical in terms of if you're coming. For many people, it's a bucket list vacation. So, to spend the extra few dollars to make sure that you have the perfect experience is great.
100%. I mean, it's definitely on my bucket list. I know I've got twin children, but they have to have a certain age to come, don't they, children? So it's not dangerous?
Very strict with the age restriction. They protect their gorillas. So the age restriction is 15. You can't go do a gorilla trek if you're under 15. Obviously, from an age point of view, you can be 99 or 105 if you want to do a gorilla trek. They've got a whole host of facilities to help people who might have movement problems and might or suffer from some sort of illness that might not allow them to trek. So what we have is what we call the bush helicopter. The bush helicopter is basically a stretcher, and you get 4 porters, so you feel like David Livingstone, and
Wow.
they will carry you to the gorillas. It's an amazing experience. We've had a group here, and I think the one day we had 14 or 15 bush helicopters. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to trek and go and see the gorillas.
But for the average person, you don't use a helicopter, right? The idea is you hike, or does everyone use one of them?
No. You hike. So
yes.
What all I want to get across is the fact that, you know what, there is opportunity for everybody.
Yeah.
Above the age of 15. So there's no age limit in terms of the upper age bracket.
Yeah.
And if you have something like you're suffering from emphysema or something like that, you still can go and experience it with the rest of your families. And you know what, for me, when you go and experience the gorillas, it's one of those experiential experiences type thing. So you're going to remember that moment for the rest of your life. So when you go as a family, you're going to remember it as a family for the rest of your life. We've had some guests, come multi-generational guests, and I tell the story often now, where it was the grandparents and the grandchildren, and the grandchildren were in their late teens, early 20s. And I said, "Where's the parents?" And they said, "No, we left them at home." And I said, "Oh, why have you come to Rwanda?" And he said, "You know what? My grandchildren know that they're going to inherit money. There's no doubt about that. But what they're going to remember is this." And I think that's the important thing, is that you're creating memories that are going to last forever. You're creating memories that are crossing the generations. And when you go and see the gorillas for the very first time, you're just in awe, because there's nothing between you and the gorillas. I've done thousands of land graphs, and it's a completely different experience. It's one of those moments that, they say, to have a memory, you need to create an emotion. Well, 20% of our guests tell us that they cry when they first see the gorillas. So that's testament to the fact that you have an emotion.
Yeah, how beautiful. And Craig, what's it like for you? I mean, you must have seen these gorillas over many years now. You must know who's who in terms of the families that you talked about earlier. What's it like for you?
Every time you visit them, it's a different interaction. There's some smaller families, there's some bigger families. The interaction between the families are very different. So it really is like, I'd love to say a first time every time, but every time you leave with something more. So it's, and the thing is, it's not the zoo. So the family, sometimes you might go and 3 or 4 members of the family are somewhere else, and it's just amazing. Those amazing silverbacks, which are what, 400 or 500 pounds, and they're lying there on the grass, and their baby gorillas are just jumping all over them. It's those type of things that and you only get to spend 1 hour. That's the key, is you only get to spend 1 hour. They're very, very strict with that. And that hour seems like minutes. It's like doing a meditation properly. You just, it's gone.
And why is that, the hour restriction?
Because they want to try and keep the gorillas as wild as possible. So we want to respect that the gorillas, I'm loath to say privacy, because I tend to think that the gorillas actually watch us more than we watch them. There's only 2 chromosomes difference between us and the gorillas. So a few million years ago, they went one way and we went another. It would have been quite easy that we both went the same way. So, from that perspective, they're very strict. They're really good at conserving the gorillas. A couple of years back, or a couple of decades back, when Diane Fossey was around, the gorilla numbers were dropping quite significantly. And now I read the other day that there are over 1,000 gorillas at the moment in the Virunga Massif, which is amazing.
Wow. And how does sustainability and conservation affect the gorillas now?
Well, again, we're very fortunate. We've got a really amazing government, and they're very proactive. And they've put in many programs to ensure that the community has buy-in. And again, having lived in a number of African countries, often the community is cut off by a big fence. And so what has happened in Rwanda is they've said the key to success with the gorillas is to get the community to buy into it. Then the second part of that is 5% goes into like a conservation fund, if I could call it that, where farmers on the periphery, if their farm is damaged by any reason, you've also got golden monkeys in the forest, so they come and eat the Irish potato crops. And those farmers are immediately compensated.
And it's spectacular land. We were looking at a lot of the photographs and videos earlier. But Craig, tell us how you ended up in this incredible location, in this amazing job for this luxury brand.
I've been very fortunate. I've worked in Africa for all my life. I'm most probably 6th or 7th generation African. So Africa is in my blood. I had owned a couple of businesses in South Africa. I had sold them and gone into semi-retirement, and I was looking for something new after about a year. And I really think that God intervened, and he sent me this phone call on, I'll never forget, on the 6th of January from a headhunter. And he said, "Are you interested in going to Rwanda? We've got 2 magnificent properties." Wow. And my wife, without hesitation, said, "Yes, we are."
Wow. And how does your family feel about the gorillas? I mean, if you ever leave there, your children are going to be heartbroken, perhaps.
Unfortunately, my children are fairly old, so they haven't been to see the gorillas, and they've enjoyed it. But at the same time, my son has moved on. He's studying to be a commercial pilot now, and next year my daughter will be going to university, so it's a little bit different. But they were also very fortunate because they were born on the banks of the Zambezi in Zambia. So we always joke and we say, and literally true, that when they were going to school in the morning, some days they'd be late for school. And when the teacher would ask them why, it's because elephants were crossing the road. So, they've been, it might sound silly to some people in terms of saying, oh, they're late for school because of the elephants. But the elephants move, and they move between Zimbabwe and Zambia and backwards and forwards, and they're looking for food. And so, our children have been very, very spoiled because they've had really an amazing childhood in terms of being one with nature.
And can you share with us, has anything quirky happened with the gorillas? I mean, you've been there for a few years. Has anything unusual happened, or quirky stories you can share?
I don't want to create an expectation because it doesn't happen often. But we've had instances where when you're going into the jungle, there's no pathways, and it's because the gorillas move through the jungle, and so you have to follow and go where the gorillas go. So they try to keep 15 meters between you and the gorillas at all times, but because the gorillas will move forward and you can't move back, sometimes a number of our guests have actually had the gorillas touch them. And so we had a guest a couple of months back who came back with a big paw print on the back of her arm. And she said it wasn't aggressive at all. It was just a case of the gorilla wanted to get through, and he pushed her like this. And he said, "Let me go through." So she had this big paw print. She said she was going to have the jacket framed.
Absolutely. Can they get aggressive, gorillas?
I think, the males, especially when they're fighting for silverback, can get incredibly aggressive. But the reality is we've never had an incident where a guest has felt unsafe. What we tell all our guests, and you'll get a briefing at the park as well, is that the minute you submit, they lose interest. So all you have to do is go down on your haunches and go like that. And no matter how aggressive they are, they'll tell you that they don't show that aggression anymore. They move away.
I wish a few humans would submit if I went like that. Right.
You know what? We can learn a lot from the gorillas. I think that's the key.
Yeah. No, absolutely sounds like it. And just tell us a little bit more about the 2 hotels, because I'm interested in, I know One and Only is just so luxurious. I'm sure that these 2 hotels are also luxurious. Can you tell us a little bit about the interiors and about the style?
Well, again, we're very, very proud. We were just recently, the readers of Condé Nast voted us number 1, Gorillas Nest, and number 2, Nyungwe House in Africa.
Congratulations.
We also voted number 25 and number 26 in the world. So, for us, that was a real highlight and a great way to end our year.
Absolutely. Particularly after the few years that we've all had in hospitality that have been really tough.
Indeed. So Gorillas Nest was built, we built on stilts, and we built above the ground. You're literally floating above the vegetation. The hotel, we're very fortunate. We have some very generous owners who are very passionate about the project. We have 21 rooms. Each villa is separate from the others. So we have a concept of different menu, different venue. So even though you're staying with us for 3 or 4 nights and you see, but there's only one restaurant, we ensure that every dining experience is completely different in a different location. So we don't have an a la carte menu. We have a menu that's designed by our chef in conjunction with you and your dietaries every day. We have a fabulous vegetable garden, one at the top and one at the bottom. It's probably about over 1 hectare, where we grow our own produce, and the produce we can't grow, we try and source from the local community.
I saw too that you do have a lot of plant-based dishes as well.
Africa is an amazing continent.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And I know that, I've been to South Africa and a few of the countries. I haven't yet been to Rwanda. As I said, my children aren't old enough to bring them yet to see the gorillas. But, it really has attracted, the very wealthy and a lot of the very famous for many years. Why is that, do you think? What is the fascination that the rest of the world sees with Africa?
Africa is just an amazing continent. The wildlife is just amazing. You're not going to have that sort of experience anywhere in Europe or the US. For me, Africa has a very special energy. And, I'm biased because I'm African, but I would not like to live anywhere else in the world. I just think Africa, once it gets into your blood, it's an amazing, amazing place. Again, Rwanda is an outlier in Africa in terms of good governance. So, not only are we one of the safest countries in the world, but we also have really low levels of corruption. And we don't even compare ourselves to the world, to Africa now. We're comparing ourselves to the world. And it's always nice to see that when you donate money or you're doing good deeds, that whatever you donate is being used properly.
Why don't you have the corruption that a lot of African countries have been battling for so long?
One word: leadership. The government is really, the president is just an amazing man. I've had the fortune of meeting him a few times, and he's just really inspirational. He holds his ministers accountable. We have the highest level of female MPs in the world. I think we have the highest level of female cabinet ministers in the world.
Wow.
In terms of LGBT, we're very tolerant in Rwanda. So, you don't have to hide your preferences. They accept you for who you are. I think, and again, those type of things you don't find in many African countries.
That's right. I didn't know all of that. And look, Craig, when you go away, where are your favourite travel destinations, and do you look for luxury that you leave behind at the One and Only?
I'm going to disappoint you now. For 1 month of the year, we go to a little town outside Cape Town called Simonstown. We rent a house on top of a hill.
Beautiful.
And it's just, yep, and that's our happy place in terms of getting away. I think, we don't want a hotel environment because we live on the resort. So
right.
It's a little bit of an escapism. We're very fortunate. We've traveled quite extensively. I and my children love Disney. We've most probably been there about 12 times. So
Disneyland.
Disneyland, can't beat it. So we go from one extreme to the other. So it really just depends. My wife and daughter love an opportunity to go shopping because obviously there's not much retail in Rwanda. I always joke and say when we came back from the lockdown, so we were in Rwanda for the whole lockdown, and then we went abroad for a month, and we came back with 180 kilos of luggage. So they made up.
Wow. Where did you go, to Europe or?
No, it's just Cape Town again. We got a really great Airbnb there that we know really well and that we enjoy. It's like going back home.
Yeah, no, it's just so exciting. The One and Only is just such a progressive and exciting luxury hotel group. It's just wonderful. But before we go, I have to ask you, where to from here?
We will never be a cookie cutter brand. They've got some really great expansion plans in terms of properties. Selection criteria is really tough. Rwanda is living proof of that. When we started this development, Rwanda wasn't the destination that it is today, and it won't be the same destination. And we one of the forerunners into the luxury property market in Rwanda. Again, with 2 One and Only resorts in Rwanda.
Yeah, look, it's absolutely wonderful. And I'm desperate to come. I have some friends in Rwanda who live there, who are Londoners, and who have told me wonderful things about it and told me wonderful things about the One and Only, which is why we're speaking now. So thank you so much for your time. And I wish you much success next year when hopefully the world starts to shift in terms of travel. And I hope to meet you in person at some stage.
Fabulous, Renee. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. It's taken ages to get you to talk to us. We really appreciate it, Craig. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.